So you might be wondering why I have white around my nostrils. And this is a tip I picked up from my sister. And my parents were horrified that I picked this tip up because with my sister, she would never dare go out in public like this. But I am very much not like her. And since I'm sick, I'm putting it's diaper rash cream. It's zinc around my nostrils, so that because you know how when you're blowing your nose a lot, go ahead, sit down. When you're blowing your nose a lot when you're sick, and your nose is running and you're wiping it with Kleenex, then it gets all red around there. And if you use diaper rash cream, it does not. And so as soon as you're not sick again,
there you go.
Fine.
So new look, you know.
Yeah.
This is fashionable in the winter time.
Yes.
Everyone should go with it.
Well, what I told James what I'm going to do for a new fashion, which I'm sure is going to catch on, is I'm going to wear my long johns with cut-off jean shorts over top, because we've noticed a lot of really cool kids wearing shorts in the winter, and I'm sure they're very cool.
Yeah, too cool.
Too cool.
Too cool.
So, but if you put them over top of the long johns, I bet
there
you
would go.
Be just
See?
fine.
Yeah.
And anyway, but yeah, I've barely gotten anything done today. I've been really sick, so I get up, I have some soup or some hot lemon and honey, I go back to bed.
Survival mode.
Exactly. And the dogs are very mad at me. I've had to get up a few times to clean up pee because they get mad. I let them outside and they want more from me. More attention, more everything. And they keep barking. They'll go to the window, bark, 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 bark. They're just trying to get my attention.
Is this mine now?
It's all yours. Except for the water poured on top of the green tea from days past.
Hopefully it has medicinal properties.
Okay, so we watched 3 of these. Well, a couple of them are PBS Frontlines. I borrowed a whole bunch of PBS Frontline documentaries because my library got a bunch in, and I'm so thankful for that because the PBS Frontline, they do a good job on their documentaries. They're only an hour long. But honestly, I don't think most people want to sit for more than an hour listening to
some depressing news. Because that's what a documentary is about.
Yeah.
Prepare for an hour,
for this.
hour and a half of depression. Right?
Mm-hmm. So, this one's Terror in Little Saigon, which is about some Vietnamese American journalists that were murdered. And at first I was watching this and see this guy, he's not one of the people who were murdered. He's the guy doing the research, and he's an investigative reporter, right? Like he's trying to figure out what happened because these murders they're cold cases. And he was having a hard time.
Very cold, 1982. I don't know when this thing was put out.
1981 was the first one.
There we go.
Okay.
And all the way to 1990. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So anyway, he was having a hard time finding support, actually, for giving him the information, getting him the information he needs. And then, anyway, he managed to track down the story. At first I was like, why
So these murders are in U.S. soil. That's another thing to clarify.
Yes, I should have said that, but I forgot.
Vietnamese journalists getting killed on U.S. soil.
Yes. So this guy, he's trying to track it down, and he figures it out. But, I mean, he doesn't know who exactly. But that doesn't matter because
they're with the group.
Yeah, he knows who the group is. So it was this group called The Front. It doesn't say on the back. He didn't give it away. They didn't give it away on the back.
No, that's awesome.
But anyway, I'm just going to tell you, it was this group named The Front, and they had kind of satellite organizations that would do different things for them, right? So there's this one group called K9. So they're like dogs, right? K9. So they they clean up the front's messes. So they're the ones who kill, but it's for the front. And anyway, so this is what happened. And the guy managed to track it down. And so it's just, this documentary is done differently than a lot of the PBS Frontline stuff, because it's just following this reporter while he's trying to track down the story. And so anyway, that's it. And this was actually my favorite one of the ones we watched.
So these are right-wing refugees in the United States. Okay. Military guys from Vietnam. Hope you don't mind if I talk.
No, you talk about it.
Okay. So they've been part of the South Vietnamese Army during the Vietnamese War. So these killings start 6 years after the end of the war, 75. First killing 81, according to this. There might have been more that just he wasn't able to track down. And it's fascinating because you see these guys are refugees from a country taken over by communists. Oh, you go roughly 20 years before, and you got refugees in places like New Orleans and in Miami, and oh yeah, Dallas, Texas. And what's happening 20 years before? You've got a woman 20 years later saying back in 63, on the 21st of November 1963, she traveled all the way from Miami, and she was actually Castro's former girlfriend, one of his girlfriends. And she said she was with a bunch of Cubans and maybe a CIA contract agent or two, and their trunk of the car was just loaded with, oh, what could you load a trunk with? With guns and ammo. That's the day before Dallas. And one of those flunkies, two of those flunkies actually ended up being a couple of flunkies involved in Watergate about a little less than 10 years later. So there's a problem, like when you let right-wing refugees in, you know, fascists, Nazis, stuff like that, without kind of keeping them on a leash. That's staying in line with this metaphor of dogs, right? This canine corps, as it were, that was working for the front. So this shouldn't have been news. The people who are blocking this from coming out, and have been since 1982, this guy was running across all sorts of
redacted
stuff
files
that had been released, but not all of it was released. There were whole pages missing, or pages, whole pages scribbled out, or where other pages where certain things would be blacked out and things like that. So it's the same sort of thing if you check up on Lee Harvey Oswald. You know, they're still holding on to stuff. And what is that? That's 56 years later, they're still holding on to stuff. And they say, oh, it's nothing. There's only 1,000 documents that we can't release. What is that about? They were saying there were none back in 64 with the Warren Commission. 1,000 documents. And the stuff that has been released, like even in the 70s, you look at the stuff and it's heavily redacted. You don't see any names. And so you'll get researchers saying, well, it looks like Lee Harvey Oswald was an object of interest well before 1963. And as he should have been. He was a defector, theoretically, to the Soviet Union. He actually served in the Marines. And where he served in the Marines was the Air Force Base in Japan. One of the Air Force bases is responsible for sending the U-2, this ultra-secret, top, high-tech spy plane the Americans were sending over the Soviet Union. You know, what are the chances? So it's just, this is amazing. We don't know what all is happening now. Like what sort of bozos came over from Iraq, escaping from Saddam Hussein, right? Right-wing fools. That's not to say I support Saddam Hussein or anyone who supports him, and so on and so forth. But the American military is closing this sort of thing up, or the CIA more than anything else. And the funny thing is, this might sound like a conspiracy theory. Here's a little clue for you out there. If the CIA isn't involved in a conspiracy, it ain't doing the job. That's all. Okay.
All right. Next one. This is another PBS Frontline, North Korea's deadly dictator. And, well, you know who this is about.
Well, it could be one of three, but this is the most recent version.
You want to talk about it, James?
I don't know. Say what you think.
Sick. I don't. Well, you know what? Honestly, these guys seem like a joke to me, and I know that they're very dangerous people, but it's really hard to take them seriously.
These guys are like the Donald Trumps of East Asia. You know, it's hard to take them seriously. But they've got their finger on a button. Donald Trump's got a finger. I don't think he actually has a finger on the button. I think the so-called deep state has disconnected the wires leading to the red button or whatever color it is in the Oval Office or wherever it is. Donald Trump might have tried to get it moved to his Trump Tower, wherever he's got it, New York or wherever. He's probably got one in Moscow now, right? Maybe he's got the red button there. But they wouldn't trust Donald Trump. Unfortunately, there's no deep state to take care of this dude. He is the deep state. So, amazing sort of garbage that's taking place in North Vietnam. And, it might seem like I'm othering, but hey, I'm othering Donald Trump when I'm making fun of him. I'm Canadian, not American. Even if you're American, make fun of Donald Trump. You're othering. Guess what? We live in a real world. Now, if you don't have the sense to other people like this moron, or Donald Trump, or back in the day, Adolf Hitler, or back in the day, Stalin, or present day, Putin, you've got problems. And that is 3 syllables, problems. Enough said.
Okay. So, the last one we watched while I was zonked out on the sofa was The Celluloid Closet. And this one, I was wondering when they put it out. 2001, so it was a while back. I'm just going to try to set this up so you can see it while we're talking.
When was that? 2001?
Yeah, so it was a while back. Yeah. Because they didn't have much recent stuff. And really there's been a lot of positive gay images in the media lately, I think. So, anyway, but that's what this one's about, is about gay people in the movies. So, and how the movies portrayed gay people. So, and it wasn't always very favorably. That was really the main point of it. Unless they were a little, who wouldn't like to watch a scene with Catherine Deneuve and Susan Sarandon? Honestly.
I think that was a David Bowie movie.
Yeah, he was in that too.
Earth. Yeah. Something like that.
No, it wasn't The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Okay, it
was The Hunger, I think.
Okay, there we go. It's a vampire one, that's right.
Yeah. So if you want to watch that movie now, you get to see the lovely scene. I've watched that movie when I was a teenager, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it then, and I would enjoy it now. 2 very beautiful women in a beautiful scene together. So. Now, one thing I found interesting about this was there was a woman there who was talking about how when she was young, she would look for any kind of, even if the scene wasn't positive gay, and a man was saying that too, it was like, as long as it was in there, it was just good to see it, even if it wasn't favorable, right, towards gay people. They still enjoyed that it was present, I suppose, right? So, then there was somebody talking about how a lot of the time you just had to read between the lines with things, because they would manage to get things through that weren't really obviously gay, but like men playing with each other's guns and stuff, like in cowboy movies, or just funny things, right, like that, where it was symbolic, And once you think about it, it's obviously that's what they're talking about, right? So they were mentioning that, and I really think that's artful when people manage to pull things like that through. And
you see Hollywood
maybe
was
it's
trying
more
to sneak it in.
Yeah.
So
And I thought that was really great, you know,
Yeah.
the whole reading between the lines thing. And I mean, it's like poetry, right? The way they were having to
Yeah.
get it into the movies. And
these guys were kind of blaming Hollywood, you know?
oh yeah, they were, but it's the public, you know, the people who make the movies, they make what the public wants to see.
Yeah. Someone on the show.
They know they need to make money. When they're
Said-
putting a lot of money into a film, they want to get that money out again.
Right.
You know, they don't want to be bankrupt and not able to make film number 2. So
So the deal is, someone said, yeah, the public's always been ahead of Hollywood. And I'm going, no kidding. That's the whole idea. Hollywood's not going to put something out that the public isn't going to go to.
yeah.
Well, they're not going to try
They're
to.
not gonna
They've done it, and the deal is they could do that, and then they'd go bankrupt, and then they wouldn't be able to put out the gay movies and stuff like that these people want. I got to watch out with these people, these folks. I actually like these folks. You know what I'm saying? I kind of like Tom Hanks and stuff like that.
well,
but-
he's not gay.
I know,
That's-
but
well,
no,
he
that's
has
what
a
I'm
son.
talking
I
about. The
don't
people
think
are
he
making
is.
the movie.
If he is, that's fine too. But
Yeah,
no,
that's
he was just in
personal.
Philadelphia or whatever,
I'm
which
talking-
I hadn't realized. You know, at the time, I just thought I don't even know if I watched that movie honestly, because I'm not a fan of Tom Hanks. But when
I
they were
never saw
talking
that
about
movie.
it, I thought, gosh, was that ever genius casting him in that movie? You know,
They
and I
pointed out,
never would have considered it until I watched this. So they did a really good job casting him, and I hope it was successful. I don't.
Oh, it was very successful.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it honestly.
A couple of songs from the soundtrack actually made it like to the top 40
Oh, really?
from artists that were kind of over the hill. Bruce Springsteen and Neil Young. This is what, 91 or something like that?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
yeah. Anyway, I'm afraid some of the people that made this movie were they want Hollywood to be propaganda. Well, that's been tried, and it doesn't work. Where's it been tried? Well, in the Soviet Union. So they're laying out propaganda. It really doesn't work with people. And of course, people don't like the movies. You can make all the movies that way, and yeah, they will go to the movies. But the message kind of gets lost. So the thing is, and the trouble with the Soviet Union, it didn't just stop with the business guys, right? It was their business enterprises were churning out the propaganda, but it affected the artists. So when they start talking this way about Hollywood, there's some people that are artists in Hollywood. And they want to do certain things and so on and so forth. Most people want to make money there. And I don't want politicos telling people who are doing art whether or not it's for money. I don't want them telling people what they should be doing when it comes to politics. I think they should just keep their snippy little noses out of it.
And
I'm
also,
not
these guys
talking
look
about the
really
gay
funny
people
when they
that were
march.
involved in this. I'm talking about whomever was involved with this. But go on.
No, I was just saying that these guys look really funny when they march.
Oh, the
They
North
look like
Koreans.
they're dancing. Yeah.
I won't say what I was saying about it, but I love their hats, like how big
They're
can
very
they get?
huge,
It's,
yes.
it's
I
incredible.
don't know why they made them
Well,
that
it's
big.
just to indicate that they've maybe got something upstairs between the ears and above.
Maybe.
But of course, they're pretty
I
empty-headed.
don't know.
Did we actually watch that one?
Yeah,
So
we
we
did.
watched two about. No, that was
This
the one
was
that
in North
we already
Korea,
covered. That
and this one
Yeah,
was
the way
in-
those guys dance. Like you can tell when a country is bad when you look at their army. Yeah, I mean it's not a guaranteed thing because some of them don't have armies quite like this. But when you see armies goose stepping, you know the country's bad. Right? So these guys goose step kind of like in double time. It's amazing. It looks
don't know
like
how
a
they do it.
Ziegfeld Follies things from way back when, like maybe almost like 100 years ago. Or it looks like some
Honestly,
Hollywood choreographed 30s
They need to
musical.
get some. They need to get like what do you call it? What's his name? My brain's not working right now. K. The dancer K-A-Y.
Danny Kaye?
Danny Kaye.
Oh, Danny Kaye.
Yeah,
He
if
looked
they
great
get
in front
him-
there.
in, like, if they do a movie about these guys, a musical, and find somebody like Danny Kaye and to dance through with these guys, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd pay money to see that.
Totally.
Not much, but
well, we don't have much, but it'd be great.
Couple of nickels.